Let me try to stimulate a bit the intellectual debate. I think there are two dimensions which are at work at the moment, and I'm not sure that this is seen properly because both of them are big and they seem to be very much on top of each other. One is the dimension of the changes in the technology and the changes in the system, whereby we go from national systems where, as Peter said, technology is very much out of the 70s, even the hackers are not yet interested, to a system which is much more efficient based on today's technology. The other dimension is the dimension of the states and their roles and the emergence of a number of, let me say, European multinational, as a minimum, multinational factors. Now, at the moment, the problem with CESAR is that the current system has become so enormously obsolete that we are at pains to come up with a quick but solid fix to that. But hopefully, and this is where I think I would have some concerns, this is not a once-off fix where we put a lot of energy in the fix and then we let it slide down for the next 30, 40 years and come with a similar situation. Just to say that my sense is that on the technology and the system side, in the positive sense, we are going to be at this introducing new technology, but we will continue doing that. And with the new technology, we may come to new insights, we may change system functions as we go along over the next years. The other dynamics is then on the institutional side, whereby it remains to be seen to what extent the current national functions are going to be maintained or not. Let's face it, many governments are in front of a major financial problem. It could well be that they come up with new solutions which for them are much more cost effective, whereby, for example, they say, I don't need my national ANSP, I will designate somebody else who is doing this in a bigger country, who has the economies of scale, and I can do it at a lower price. Now, my sense is, if we look at the legal aspects of this, it would be desirable to have a regime where both the dynamics of these developments are separated out. Meaning that the legal regime would be set up in such a way that both evolution on the technology and system side and evolution on the institutional side is catered for. Now, this is probably going to be quite a challenge, but it may mean in first instance that we separate the debate between the technology evolution as one, on the one hand, from the institutional evolution, because the technology evolution, in my view, cannot be granted as being the situation we go to. So I would be interested to hear how you see this and whether it is feasible, because the complexity of this would be enormous, but whether it is feasible to do that and to move towards a legal regime in the broader sense, not only on liability, whereby these two evolutions can continue to take place with a relatively high level of legal certainty.
I can understand your point of view, but I think that if you would like to set up a system which can help you to find the real entity or person, because in the end we have to protect the consumers and we have to protect, for example, the victims. So we have to find the parties responsible for and liable for. So I think that we have to consider the technologies and we have to enter in the end in the technologies. It's difficult to avoid it because technologies will help us to identify the liable party, and I think it's impossible to avoid it. For example, when we work together in the swimsuit program with the Selex Sistemi Integrati. Indeed, we have a person here responsible for it. We enter in the technology of swim in order to find in which way. The first question was, it is possible in a technology like swim, so complex, to find, to identify the real responsibilities of the several parties involved and the liabilities of these parties. And in the end, we said, yes, thanks to the technologies, it's possible. And it's possible also to simplify it and to find a solution. I think in the end, it's quite difficult to separate and to not to apply a framework regulation for each several technologies. Because in the end, maybe you could escape to find the real person responsible for and then consequently liable for something that could happen.
Yes, I agree that the technical part and the legal part should be not split, but should work together. I am also aware that there are some also multinational problems, as you correctly said. But we should start from one main important assumption. Air traffic management have a global dimension. So probably should not be, let me say, addressed at national level. It's not only, let me say, a problem of crisis and that some states cannot afford. No? Is because we need to discuss with one voice as Europe, because our traffic management system need and will operate with the other, because it's part of. So I would like, let me say, to see it as global, because it's global. So probably in terms of regulation that should regulate, let me say, one is how to perform, how to realize the system. Another is how to operate the system, maximizing, let me say, the protection of the right of all the stakeholders. The involved stakeholder, I mean also the citizen that will fly the aircraft or the system in general, need to be taken into account in a global manner. This is my personal point of view.
Yes. My name is Carlos Viegas. I'm IFATSIA Cesar JU coordinator. Ms. Anna Masutti, I have a few questions and comments to make. But the first one is that at the beginning of your presentation, you talked about the designation of the ATSP as being a unilateral administrative decision of each designating state. This confuses me a little bit as we are discussing here the issues of the liability of the automation layer in the ATM system, and the air traffic service provider is a function of one of the functions of an air navigation service provider, and the air navigation service provider is the one that is responsible for the automation layer of the systems. So I would like a clarification on that. Further, I would like to compound on the previous question, which has to do with why we are outdated in the industry in terms of technology, because we spend so much time discussing and designing the systems safely that industry and open systems overtake us very quickly. That is the situation today. Namely, in the SWIM network, we decided to go for IPv6, which is an open and commercial standard, because systems are cheap. The standard is defined, and we abandoned our own proprietary system, which we worked on for ages and for nothing. The reason being that we need to make safe and effective systems. The problem that I realize exists is that we might end up now discussing the legal issues about liability so long that we cannot make best usage of the technologies available. Namely, we are setting up airspace blocks, functional airspace blocks, and in the previous presentation we talked about specific national issues, specifically in Spain. I come from Portugal, so I'm in the middle of that issue. There are a myriad number of legal issues that make things extremely difficult. My question is, do you think the legal system can move as quickly as and the national states can move as quickly as the present technology allows to make best usage of what we have designed in the Single European Sky and other similar projects?
Thank you. And for the first question, you are right. We are discussing about liability here, about private law. And indeed, I can understand also the point of view of Paul when he asked me about the approach that we will need to have in a future in order to set up the regulation for the liability. Of course, because I think that your approach is the perfect approach for the public law. You have to see the institution in order to set up a regulation for the several parties involved, but from public law, what they have to do inside a common program in Europe. But from the private law point of view, this is really different, and we have to enter the technical issues and the technical problems which the future Single European Sky will arise. And regarding your second question, I'm quite skeptical that we will be able to go ahead with the regulation on liability very quickly because, of course, we have to wait for the implementation of the program and we have to analyze the real position of all parties involved and so on. For example, when we discuss about the regulation, the governance for global navigation satellite system, for example, we thought about the main principle which could be characterized as a regulation, but I think it's too early now. But we can discuss and we can maybe find several common solutions, certainly.
Okay, I think